Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. My name is Sean, and I'm delighted you're joining us for today's ESPC community webinar. Today I'm joined by Ijaz, MVP, who will cover Supercharge Microsoft Copilot with Azure AI Search, build declarative agents using TypeSpec. So we love hearing what you guys have to say, so remember to join the conversation about today's webinar and more on X. Our handle is at ESPC_community and our hashtag is hashtag ESPC25. Tweet us, tag us, and tell us what you learned. Don't forget to check out our Learning Hub, which is updated with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. You can access and view the Learning Hub by visiting our website, sharepointeurope.com, and clicking Content tab at the top. Don't let the learning stop here. Continue to keep up and stay ahead by joining us for our next webinar, Prompt Flow Evaluation in Practice, Metrics, Mistakes, and Meaningful Results, which is on Friday, 22nd of August, 3 p.m. CEST. At ESPC 25, we're going all in on AI, with expert-led sessions covering Azure AI Foundry, AI agents, responsible AI, generative AI, Copilot, OpenAI, and AI in SharePoint. This is your chance to learn directly from top experts and Microsoft MVPs, driving the future of AI productivity. Scan the QR code on the screen and use the code Azure AI Week 200 to receive €200 off your ESPC 25 ticket. As always, if you have any questions at any stage, feel free to type it in the questions box, and Ijaz will get to them during the webinar. This webinar is recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you'll be notified by email when it's available. And now I'm going to pass you over to today's webinar presenter, Ijaz. Thanks for joining us today. So you should be able to share your screen there, Ijaz.
Share my screen.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. I can see your screen there.
Can you guys see my screen? And can you hear me as well?
Yeah, I can hear you properly.
Right. Cool. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Ijaz. I am a developer architect, work for a company called Advania UK. I am also Microsoft MVP. This is my second year in MVP program. So I'm really excited to present this session on how to build Microsoft Copilot declarative agent using TypeSpec approach. And what we're going to look into this, how we'll integrate Azure AI Search directly with the declarative agent today. So let's just start in. So what we're going to cover first, we're going to look into the introduction. Then before we go in deep dive into declarative agent, we want to understand where the declarative agent sits under the Copilot extensibility, and then we'll look into compare two approaches, manual approach and TypeSpec approach when building the declarative agent, then demo, then we'll go code review, and at the end there will be a Q&A, but you can feel free to ask question during the presentation as well. So now the Microsoft is one of the essential tool at the moment, you know, when it comes to the enhancing the productivity. But the real benefit we get when we integrate our unique data sources. It could be your external data sources or any business critical data sources to the Copilot. Then you get more value, and you know, with your Copilot, because it's not just looking into your SharePoint files, it going into your external data sources. So now, and this is where the Copilot extensibility comes in. So where we can extend the Copilot native functionality and then go to external sources which are more critical to your business. Now, in the Copilot extensibility, we have, as we speak for now, is three different stage components which we can use to extend the Copilot. One, we can use the Copilot connector. We used to call, previous name was the graph connectors, now it's called Copilot connectors, Power Platform connectors you can use. And if you come to the agent, we have two types of agent: declarative agent, custom engine agent. and now recently the Copilot APIs has been released as well. So today we will be looking into the declarative agent and how to build with the TypeSpec approach. So before we talk about the declarative agent, I think some of the folks we always wanted to understand what is agent. So agent is basically you any you you can enhance the Copilot to providing the domain specific expertise and automation. So you can make the agent whatever you want to achieve or you want to solve the business process, and it will help you to streamline the business process, decision making, improve efficiency. So you can basically extend or enhance however you want the agent to complete your automation tasks or any other business critical tasks. So you have the flexibility with the agent. So with the declarative agent, we have basically they as the name says, you able to define actions, instructions, and the knowledge. You define these three things, and then you will be able to, if you in terms of to achieve the automation in for your business scenario. So the actions are when you are integrating with your external APIs, instructions where you tell the Copilot how he needs to interact with the user query and also line of businesses, what each and how he needs to formulate the responses from using your external API if you're using, or all the other native capabilities it has. For example, OneDrive for business, emails, Copilot connectors. So you tell Copilot how it behaves and when he's answering the question. And you set the boundaries on the instruction as well. Give clear instruction. Knowledge where it comes in, where you have a grounding data. For example, you can have a OneDrive for business, a SharePoint site. You have a SharePoint site, you can plug that in, which is a natively available. You can use Copilot connector. So if the data is already in your M365, then you use that knowledge within that. So you can define what knowledge you want your agent to use. And is using the behind the scene is using this Microsoft Copilot orchestrator and foundation models and the user experience. So you as a you will be looking into customizing the knowledge and skills, actions and instructions on this part, but behind the scene is the same orchestrator which Copilot uses, same foundation model, user experience. So you're not changing any of these three things. You're just changing knowledge, skills, or actions, instructions in here. That's why it's a declarative agent. That's why it's different with the custom engine agent, where custom engine agent, we have a full control over orchestrator, foundation models as well. So we have a full control over all and we can define everything, bring our own orchestrator and foundation models. But here in declarative agent, we have the limitation where we are only have the knowledge and skill and instruction where we can customize. Now, going into the declarative agent capabilities. So native capabilities, these are the native capabilities which are available as we know. It has, you can plug in Microsoft Copilot connectors. If you already have, you can plug in web search, point to any search site you wanted to bring the data in from. You can plug in any SharePoint site. Natively, you have a graph art, code interpreter. If you have, for example, uh, Excel, some Excel large Excel file, and you want to do some analysis, it uses behind the scenes same code interpreter, OpenAPI, but you don't need to do anything. You just have to define, enable this code interpreter. It does everything for you behind the scenes, so you don't have to write a single piece of code to interact with the code, to use a code interpreter or any agent behind the scene. Dataverse, you can integrate Dataverse, Teams messages, emails, and people. So this is the native declarative capabilities as we speak available. More chances this will grow, and there will be more capabilities in the future. So now, when building the declarative agent, there are two approaches. One is manually, which we used to do before the TypeSpec came into the picture. We were used to go and create OpenAPI YAML file, AI plugin.json. Then we used to OpenAPI YAML for API specification, then instructions. So we have to write this manually, all these. And I built the declaration with a manual approach, and I know how tedious was, especially when you wanted to integrate your API, external API with the declarative agent. You have to use the correct syntax. And if you have a, for example, in your API, if you have 5 methods which you're exposing to the agent, and 5 method has a return types, and what are the parameters it should receive, what type of parameter it should receive, and when it get the data back, what kind of data, when return type for each method. So, and is there any security mechanism you have to plug in part of that? So all these was very, very tedious. Like any mistake you, because you're writing yourself, and any mistake you made in your API, OpenAPI specs, while you are configuring and creating those files, there is no compiler can tell you. Only way was to basically go and provision that to the Copilot and then check if it works or not. So it was like a trial and error, and I know if something goes wrong, we had to start from zero again to find what is not working and what's working. So it was very tedious process. And we give feedback all the time to the Microsoft on this one. I think they listened to this feedback and they came up with TypeSpec, and it's really, really good. So TypeSpec is like TypeScript. TypeScript is like language for the AP, defining the APIs. So what basically they're doing is they give you a syntax to use for one file or 2 file. You just write as a TypeScript, kind of TypeScript, use some decorators, etc. And what behind the scene Microsoft 360 Microsoft Agent Toolkit does is it take that your file, which is kind of TypeScript, uh, it can generate all these files for you as well. So you don't have to manually generate any of these files anymore. So, and it also give you compile errors. If anything is wrong, it's give you the compile error. It's got a help available. It's got documentation available. So it's really, really and the lots of new features are coming into as well. So so let's jump into the comparison. So if you compare the manual approach and the TypeSpec approach, when we talk about the effort, the manual approach was taking your time. It was eating lots of time. So we were not focusing more on the business problem. We were more focusing as the developer architect. We were more focusing on how to fix the OpenAPI schema, how, you know, and where this error could be. So actually, it was eating lots of our time. Whereas TypeScript is because it's the type, and you get the compile error, and you get to know if there's something wrong, you can go and fix it. Consistency, you know, the TypeScript has a better consistency because only 2 files, single source of truth. Maintainability is easy as well, and the developer experience is way better. You can focus on our API definition instead of fixing OpenAPI spec issues by yourself. So so if you go deep dive into the TypeSpec approach, there is when we create a new declarative agent, via Microsoft Agent Toolkit, we get all this is in preview version, by the way. So if you want to create a declarative agent using the TypeScript approach, this is in preview at the moment. If you select that option, it already add all the required packages you need in your solution, and also create these 3 files for you as well. The main first file is tsconfig.yaml file. It's got some emitters. Then the main file is main.tsp, and if you have any API definition, or if you want to plug in your API with your TypeScript, then you can create another file for action or API action. You can name it anything, so it does not need to be named exactly this one. You can define your separate file for your API. It doesn't have to be separate, but I kept it separate, and this is for the maintainability. So the main file is where you define, we can look into this code as well, where you define your agents, agent instructions, conversation starter, etc. And then action.ai search.tsp, which is a TypeSpec extension. This is where you define your API endpoint and what function do you want to use from your API. What is the server endpoint? If there's any authentication, for example, in our case, I will be showing you how to use the API authentication. And then at the end, at the compile stage, the Microsoft 365 Agent Toolkit compiled all your TypeSpec files, this one and this one, and then it generate these 4 files: declarative.json, AI search plugin, if there's any plugin, and then OpenAPI spec as well. So it all generate out for you as well. You don't have to generate anything by yourself. So that's really, really beautiful. You don't have to deal with JSON file or YAML file anymore. So so today we look into this app architecture. So I come with a demo. I said it would be really good to connect to an API, and we go connect directly. And I chooses Azure AI Search because that's one of the best available in terms of the when we are working on the RAG apps in the AI world. So I said, how about if we go declarative, which has the capabilities like OneDrive, and is connected with the OneDrive and SharePoint Copilot connectors. But what about if we have external sources we want to bring in? And one of the the best we have in at the moment in Azure is vector database. We use Azure AI Search. If we want to bring our external, might be SQL database, might be some data in blob storage, or some external your sources. How about if you go directly from the declarative agent to the Azure AI Search, and then ask question and then get a response, so we don't have to build middleware somewhere, because previously we had to build a middleware, some might be Azure function or API, which declarative agent used to call, and then that API was calling some your external sources. So if you have a scenario where you are dealing with Azure Search is an API behind the scenes, so you can directly integrate from the declarative agent, so you don't have to build any middleware. So let's jump into the demo, and then we can go through the code as well. And then if you have any question, we can go through the questions. So let me move this file here, and then probably right. Okay, so just briefly, I have for the demo, what I've done is I've got some sample documents in blob storage, and I've used and integrated that blob storage with Azure AI Search, so I can I'm generating this embedding as well, so we can get the better response. So for example, I'm going to just put this message here, just to show the data is available in here, and it's got some vectors as well. So now, if I move this across my solution. So in here, I've got the sample documents which I have uploaded to the blob, and then blob is integrated with the Azure AI Search. So that's the setup. Just to give you background of how the setup is running now. And then that's Azure AI Search setup. And if I go one of the, because to integrate the Azure AI Search, I'm using the API authentication, right? Now for the API authentication, it's really important. Like we need to use the key for API key when we're using the API authentication. Then how do we keep it safe? Because I'm building this from the front end, and how do we keep it the key safe? So what we do is we go to the first thing, go to your developer portal, okay, in Teams. Developer portal, go in there, and then there's something called API key registration. Now with API key registration, I can go back to the tools and just go to the tools, and there is the API key registration. You click here, you go and you register your new API key. So I already register my API key, and once you register, this is the actual key, and this is your name of the key, and then the base URL of your Azure AI Search endpoint. So what it does is it gives you this API key ID, registration ID. So it's not the actual Azure AI Search key; it's just the registration ID. You take this key, copy this one, and then what you do is put under environment variable dev, and then put it here as a API key auth registration ID. You have to use exactly the same API key auth registration ID. So that is the key in there. And then so that's one of the requirement, because I'll show you the main.tsp file, etc., where we're using, but that's the first requirement. So what happened is when it compile all those files, Microsoft 365 Agent Toolkit, it extract that key and put it in there on the fly. You use that on the fly, so you don't have to mention this anywhere in the code. So let's jump back to the demo, and then we come back to here in the code. So I have. Okay, so let me refresh this. So I have provisioned this, and now I'm hoping this is a live demo. It will work. If not work, then I might have some screenshot to prove it worked. So, right. So I can go to. So I've got this my agent call Northwind Supply. You can see here. I click on this one. I've used two decorators. Okay. So if I click on, let me just type developer if it's not, because it was on, but I'm double checking. So dash developer.on mean I have enabled the developer mode, so I can show you what's the request look like when it goes to Azure AI Search, right? So let's go back to so let me see if I can go, and it also has the ship on OneDrive as well as a knowledge base. So I wanted to show you how that look like. Right, so he's getting from the OneDrive share from the SharePoint. So let me ask some other questions. So so let's see if we're lucky. Right, so you can see here it's trying to connect to the API. This is the search query he's extracted from my question. I've got top result, bring 10, and these all been defined in my main.tsp file. I say confirm, take your permission. They want to go and fetch data from the external API at this point. So you can see here is bringing data from the from Azure AI Search. So yeah, so if I yeah, there you go. So that is the adaptive card it uses. You can see here search result, and here the search results is it bring this information. I'm using one of the adaptive card as well. So it's use this adaptive card. This information coming from the Azure AI Search. So how do I know? And I can see some data coming in this way because it's just a test data. So so it's showing some of the data like this, but this is the adaptive card where it's spitting out really quite nice in adaptive card. So let's go to the sources. Okay, so this is where I wanted to show you. This is the sources where you got this data, and if I got the agent debug info, that's why we enable the developer mode. So if I expand this, now I have these capabilities. You can see here, there's as I shown in my presentation, there were 9 of them. I've enabled only 1, so which is pointing to this site. So he did not use this one because he used this. The request has been matched with the this function, which is a search supply function, and where is so if I expand this one, this request, you can see here it create a post request to this endpoint, which is exactly API request I wanted to make. And with the search parameters, these are search parameters, top results, and what are the field I wanted to uh, extract from my response title and chunk. And once this is your request, and then you can see your response data. And this is the raw response data came back. And then of course, the Copilot actually trim it down and convert it into, use my adaptive card and render that into my adaptive card. So that's really good if you want to, if something goes wrong, for example, at this stage, the agent debug mode can always help you. And also what I found is this raw information is also very helpful as well. If you want to go further, try to debug if there's any error. Always, I would recommend go look into the raw information as well. You might be able to give you some pointer why something is not working. But yeah, that's where you can see your API request and what capability is being used by your agent. So that's where you can ask any questions. You can build. You can you can add more. It's not just 2. You can add as many as you want. I think I don't remember any number, but yeah, you can add 5 or 6 or 7 starters. So let's ask one more question if we can find this answer. So right, so it's going to Azure AI Search again. Yeah, cool. So not sure why these are coming in this format, but is probably try to put this into the nice adaptive card, right? And then you can, of course, can you go back and see your results as well and your calls. Cool. So you get an idea. And if you want to I think the first one I use, if I go back and use one of them, and you saw I probably minimum order. He uses my capabilities in SharePoint Online. I have one file over there. So in here, I've got Northwind reorder policy. So let's see, he go and grab this information from there. Yeah, so you can see here, he giving me the sources. Yes, I've got this information from there. And if you now expand the agent debug, you see the Northwind supply agent function, which is going to the Azure AI. It's not selected. It's matched, but it's not selected. So, but it used this capabilities, OneDrive and SharePoint. So result count is 1. So it's going in there, and that's why you can see the sources here as well. So that's from the demo point of view. And if I can quickly show you the code, so let's go back. So let's quickly go
Hi,
to the
Jess.
main. Yeah.
There's a question in, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Does Teams chat UI or agent have any sort / long memory integrated to handle follow-up questions?
Yeah, it's what I natively find is it does handle. I mean, it doesn't um, there is no integration, anything we doing declarative agent in declarative agent that we are specifying follow the handle the follow-up, but is he doing behind the scene automatically? It gives us suggestion. That's what I've experienced, is give us the suggestions, but I'm not doing anything in the code to trigger anything or specify anything around the suggestions. So it what probably us giving you suggestion here, and if you think this suggestion is relevant based on my question, you can click on it, and then what it would do is it take this as a new search query from you and does what it needs to do. So go and match with your relevant the function defined in your action or API or any capabilities which are related to that, then it try to fetch information from there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. So all right, let's jump in the code. And so we clear with API key at the registration ID now, and then let's go to the main.tsp file. So right, so in main.tsp, as said, is TSP is a TypeSpec file format. Now in agent, we define what our agent does, like a over high level definition for that agent. Then instructions. So instructions, you can go and define how your agent, understand your query, how you formulate the search results, process the search result, compose response. This is me giving some step-by-step instruction to the agent what to do with each step. So you can come up with your own instruction, but idea is to, the more you give instruction clearer in steps, then is always better for and around citations and what to do when it can't find answer. For example, troubleshooting. So if no result found, ask the user to rephrase, add context. So any to cover all the angles we give when you're writing the instruction. So this is the place, this is the decorators, instruction decorators. You can write in all of your instruction here. Then conversation starters. You saw 2 conversation starter, so you can add more as well if you want to, where user can start and click and ask the questions. Now this is the main guy where we have all the configuration supply agent as a namespace. Now what happened the first, there are some decorators. So in TypeSpec we have some decorators. Use that decorator for specific. For example, the first one is a server. Now it's getting from global Northwich search service. If I click on here, it going into this file, which is my action or plugin API. So it's taking this server from here. This server is defined same as defined previously. So it's taking this URL from here. I want to use this server, and then any action metadata for that, my Northwind action metadata. This is my name for the human. What is the description of this API plugin I wanted to use, and etc. So that's some metadata. Then the function under the Northwind search actions are defining search supply agent. So if I go in search supply agent and click here, which goes to the same file, basically I'm defining this here and I'm exporting back to and in main.tsp. So what is the action dot here? The first decorator is I want to use API key auth and put into the header. Now what it does is, now it takes it knows my environment file. So what it does, when you look at that, it will basically go and look this one and take this ID, take that ID, and also get the actual API key from the developer portal and add into the request header. That's what this line does, right? You can use some other authentication mechanism as well. I think with Azure AD, you can use as well, not just the API key. Right, this is the route. This is the route I wanted to use, which you saw how he built the whole API. If I show you API endpoint, which pointing to, I might have here as well. So I could show here. You can see it's trying to build. I used the Postman, so you can always use. So it's building this endpoint, and then going back to capabilities. So no, so we have a summary, so you can define information about your all the functions, and then you have the capabilities. So in capabilities, we have a how you define your response. So response semantic is what basically define where you want. This is where you can define your adaptive card. So I've said, okay, when the value comes in the data path, I want, because I'm only selecting title and chunk in my return type. Then once I've got these two properties, then please use this adaptive card and map those properties in this one. If you go into adaptive card folder under app packages adaptive card and go to search results, so that's the data, sample data, but here you can see I've got the search results which you saw earlier. Here are the search results, the heading, and then the container. It give you title and the chunk. So it's using that and mapping the result automatically. Then coming back to here, so this is the initial decorator for the function. Here you define, yes, I want to use get, post, put, what type of function method, HTTP method you want to use. My in case is post. And then you can define describe you can put description for the individual functions as well. And then here's I'm making a post request. So data request is this model, and this model I'm passing the search, which will be the user search query. Top integer is 10, which is part of my request, and the select these properties. So you define your request, whatever request is being sent as a as a post. And I think if you look at the postman, you see here exactly the same parameter. Right, now we got the data request, and also in the query, if you see the request itself going to the API, in the query I have this API version equal to 2505. So this is the required by the Azure AI Search. So which version of the API you want to use? So it's different, but I needed to add something in the query as well, and this is the query API decorator. We can help you do that as well. Now, and you can see here, and also I've got data request, which is the data item. When because I'm expecting title and chunks, I can formulate my results. What are the field I'm expecting as a return type? So you can see here is really easy. Like a TypeScript, you can define your function, what method you want to use, what return type you want to use, and what body request you want to use. Really easy. So once we got this in place, then we reference this in main.ts file, and this is what I did under the Northwind search action. So if I have one more to add in, for example, I can define in let's press search knowledge source, etc., knowledge base, etc., and then define this function also search knowledge base, etc. So you define again, you can define multiple in the same file, and then it will reference from there. So now if I and the next one is the capabilities. So how do we define the capabilities out of the box available? This is so outside this one, you'd start defining your capabilities. So in my case, I wanted to use capabilities for the SharePoint, so I can see I define agent capabilities dot OneDrive SharePoint, and then you pass the URL of the site like this. So if I say, let's say if I just copy this one, and another, you want to other capabilities. So if I just paste here, so I just check here, let's say Copilot connectors. I'm just Copilot connector, and then I'm going to remove everything. Okay, and then I'm going to say, I just want to show you if you press here, and you can see you can get IntelliSense here, agent capabilities, which code interpreter, Copilot, and if whichever you want to add as a additional as well. So if you say Copilot in category, so you might have to go into Copilot connectors, you click on them, and then you can see what is required, the parameter. So that's really cool, because sometimes you don't know. So you can go here and find out what is needed and how you want to, what parameters you need to pass, is a connection ID you need to pass. So if I was looking at right now, I can try say T connection. I can say T connection. So T connection, right? And then I say connection ID. So simple is that. So you can here, you can put the connection ID of your Copilot connectors, then it will be part of the capability it will use based on your user request. If he needs to use the Copilot, he found something in the Copilot connector, it will give you the answers. Now, that's good, that's really easy, but what it does when it does the compilation. So what it does is, what it does generate. So if I go to generated folder, and you go to declarative agent.json, so this is what it generates. So schema, name, description, instruction we define there, conversation starters, action. So this file declarative agent.json is relatively easy, because you can see is not really messy, and but the things get complicated and tedious when you actually go into these files, right? Because this is here you're referencing. Let's go into this plugin.api file. So if you go from here, you could see your this is your API. What capabilities has, functions, what function it has, description, name, and then what are the if there's any query string parameter, is there any security, runtime. So all these reference, it get tedious when we have a more and more functions. If I go to OpenAPI spec behind the scene, you can see here YAML file for actual API request. So here is this is if I have to define this post request myself, I'll be spending some time on and making some lots of mistakes. So whereas I don't have to do any more, because I'm just defining this simple, here's my post, here's my post request, here's my body, here's my return type, here is a query string, please use it. And it's generating all this for me. Summary, parameters, request body, responses. And imagine if you have a 5 function and this file get bigger and bigger and bigger, there is more chances you're going to make a mistake. And this at the end,
Yeah, there's just a question in, if that's okay.
yeah, sure.
Does this require any VS Code extension?
Yes. So the way we create this, so there is we have a Microsoft 365 agent toolkit. So you install this Microsoft 365 agent toolkit, and once you install this one, let me show you. Create a new, probably might be open a new window, or by click on the create a new. You create a new, select declarative agent, create a new agent, and then make sure you have the latest version of Microsoft 365 Microsoft 365 agent toolkit, and then you have these options. Creative declarative agent, no action. That means you are not integrating with any of your API or plugins. So you want basic declarative agent, only SharePoint, the native capabilities. Add an action. So create a declarative agent with the action. So this is where you can basically go and create an action, but you don't want to use the TypeSpec. So you want to create a YAML file and JSON file by yourself. You are free to do that. Add a Copilot connector. So as I said, I just added the Copilot connector. So it's going to go and create all the JSON file and add the Copilot connector configuration in there. Then start with TypeSpec with Microsoft Copilot preview. So it's in the preview. So go and use this approach. And what it does is it install all of your required packages needed for that TypeSpec to work. So for example, if I just cancel this, you can see here it has a TypeSpec 365 Copilot, some TypeSpec compiler, HTTP, TypeSpec OpenAPI, OpenAPI 3. So all these packages been plugged in. If you go back to in the README, and this gives you more clear open preview, and here are the steps. So first, get the agent 365 agent toolkit. You have make sure you have the account and you have the Copilot license as a prerequisite. Do npm install, that will install the TypeSpec files, and then you can update your main.tsp file, and if there's any other plugin or Copilot action file you wanted to integrate, and then just hit on go to toolkit again, extension, and click on the provision. And it does is it go and provision the app directly in your Copilot, and then you can use it from there. Sorry, I can't hear if that helps.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, coming back to sorry, we're going through the generated file. So packages generated, yeah, and then it also you the manifest.json within the generated file as well, so you can review. There's nothing is being generated, it's only using this declarative.json, which is generated here, and passing here. You can modify this one. There's nothing we are overwriting on the fly, apart from the team's idea from the dev environment variables. The rest I'm not doing it, but yeah, that's all from me. If you have any question, we have 10 minutes. I'm happy to jump on answer any questions.
Yeah, perfect. So there's a few questions in ES. So thank you, ES, for great presentation and demo. So now again, questions answered part. Should you wish to ask questions, please feel free to type in the question box now. So the next question there is, do you foresee TypeSpec becoming the default way Microsoft envisions enterprises building Copilot agents?
Yeah, declarative agent, I think it is a very positive feedback on this one, because no developer, I mean, I've worked with different MVP, and I've been in touch with some different guys from the different companies who are building declarative agents, some other my MVP folks as well. All we are on the same page with this one. This is going to change the game. We're not going back and write YAML file as a manual. I think is Microsoft going to actively add more features as it going forward? It's something I can check with those guys with with the Microsoft folks. What's coming next with the TypeSpec? But yeah, it's a very positive feedback, and I think they're aware that people love it, and some point Microsoft will be making some more effort into it, so making it as a default.
Yeah, perfect. And just next question there is, in what scenarios does TypeSpec not provide advantages? Are there limitations we should be aware of?
I think at the moment, all I can think of is advantages, because you don't have to write all big JSON or YAML file by yourself. If you have I have a build declarative agent when I use with my external API, and I had to use not just one function, because here I'm just showing one function. If you have a 5 or 6 functions or 7 function or 10 function, API could be bigger API. How would you manage that manually? Right? With it will be really difficult not to make a mistake when you are defining your body request, and each function does differently, different type of HTTP methods, etc., and security mechanism. So yeah, that's a huge benefit. Is there any limitation at the moment? Yes, probably they can come up probably more. That's I also reported as well. In terms of the documentation, they have a TypeSpec. So so if I just show you the TypeSpec, they have a TypeSpec.io. Let me share my screen from this side. So they have a TypeSpec.io. So this is one of the documentation. You can go and check for use different decorators. But it would be nice. They are adding. You can see here. Well, if there's a syntax is wrong, then it give you some compiler error, and there's some types as well. You can click on it, go inside to find out what is requested, how we can define this. function, etc. But yeah, it's still probably more documentation can be integrated into in the Visual Studio Code, or this M365 agent toolkit would be nice.
Perfect. Just the next question there is, how does TypeSpec future-proof integrations as Microsoft Copilot evolves and new APIs could become available?
Yeah, so I think with I think this is definitely one of the type. If Microsoft is going to build something around API native external API integration, TypeSpec will be one of the tool will be high on the list for them to consider. That's what I would do. I would think that way. TypeSpec will be there to consider if there's anything native they are going to offer.
Perfect. And then I think the last question is, how does TypeSpec align with Microsoft's overall Copilot extensibility roadmap?
Yeah, as I said earlier, this we give feedback all the time to Microsoft as an MVP, and I think they know that they're getting really good vibes or good feedback on this TypeSpec because it's saving loads of time, and I think it will be on their roadmap as it going forward when they will be extending the declarative agent function declarative agent capabilities as they're going forward. So it definitely this will be, because Microsoft goal is to provide to make life easier for developers where possible, because Microsoft giving us the tool to integrate with our business critical application, which is sometimes not in SharePoint. So I think or in Microsoft ecosystem, so they're outside. So these tools they definitely will be on the top of the list.
Perfect. I believe that's all the questions. So on behalf of the ESPC community, we'd like to extend a big thank you to you again, Iaz, for taking time out to carry out this webinar. Really appreciate it.
I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Perfect. So that's the end of today's webinar. You can find this webinar and more at sharepointeurope.com/resource center. Thanks again for all of you joining us today, and hope you join us again soon. Take care.
Thank you.